Gambling can begin as an exciting pastime, a social activity, a thrill, a brief escape. But for millions of people around the world, what starts as entertainment can quietly turn into a life-altering compulsion. Gambling addiction is one of the most misunderstood behavioral disorders, often overlooked or dismissed until the consequences become catastrophic. To effectively confront this condition, we must first understand what it is, what causes it, and how to recognize its early signs. Gambling addiction, also known as gambling disorder, is a type of behavioral addiction where a person feels compelled to gamble despite the negative consequences it causes in their life. Unlike casual or recreational gambling, which is done occasionally for fun, compulsive gambling is persistent, uncontrollable, and harmful. It is classified as a recognized mental health disorder in the DSM-5, Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, reflecting its serious nature and the need for professional intervention. Unlike substance-based addictions, gambling doesn't involve the ingestion of chemicals, but its effect on the brain is similar. Both forms of addiction hijack the brain's reward system, producing intense pleasure or relief, followed by withdrawal-like symptoms when the behavior is stopped. While a drug user may crave the high of a substance, a compulsive gambler becomes addicted to the thrill of risk and the fleeting hope of a big win. One reason gambling addiction is that it is often called a hidden addiction. There are no physical signs like slurred speech or needle marks. Many gamblers maintain a facade of normalcy for years, hiding the extent of their behavior even from those closest to them. By the time the addiction becomes visible in the form of massive debt, job loss, or a breakdown, the damage is already far-reaching. Gambling addiction doesn't arise in a vacuum. A combination of psychological, environmental, and neurological factors contributes to its development. Many individuals who struggle with gambling have underlying emotional vulnerabilities. Conditions like anxiety, depression, unresolved trauma, or low self-esteem can create a desperate need for escape or excitement, something gambling temporarily provides. Environmental and social influences also play a significant role. Growing up in a household where gambling was normalized, frequent exposure to casinos or online betting platforms, and peer pressure from friends who gamble recreationally can all increase one's risk. The rise of 24/7 online gambling apps has made it even easier to fall into addiction without ever stepping foot in a casino. At the neurological level, gambling taps into the brain's dopamine system, the same system that responds to food, sex, and drugs. Every win, even a small one, triggers a dopamine rush. Over time, the brain begins to crave this stimulation and the person is driven to gamble more frequently, for longer periods, and with higher stakes. The randomness of gambling, unpredictable wins and losses, keeps the brain hooked in a pattern known as intermittent reinforcement, one of the most powerful drivers of compulsive behavior. As gambling addiction progresses, it begins to alter behavior in noticeable ways. One of the earliest signs is preoccupation. The person may constantly think or talk about gambling, whether reminiscing about past wins, planning the next bet, or obsessively checking odds or game results. Tolerance, a concept borrowed from substance addiction, is another red flag. Just as a drug user may need higher doses to feel the same high, a compulsive gambler often escalates the size or frequency of their bets. What once felt exciting is no longer enough, prompting riskier behavior. Perhaps the most telling is the secrecy that surrounds the addiction. Gamblers often lie about where they've been, how much money they've lost, or how often they play. They may become defensive or irritable when questioned. This denial and concealment make early detection difficult. But for loved ones paying close attention, these behavioral shifts are powerful indicators that something is wrong. Beyond behavior, gambling addiction leaves deep emotional footprints. Individuals often experience mood swings, alternating between excitement after a win and crushing despair after a loss. Over time, these highs and lows take a toll on mental health, leading to emotional exhaustion and instability. Many gamblers carry a heavy burden of guilt and shame, They may recognize the harm their actions are causing to themselves and their loved ones, but feel powerless to stop. This emotional weight can lead to withdrawal from social connections and increased isolation. In more severe cases, gambling addiction is accompanied by depression, anxiety, and even suicidal ideation. The sense of hopelessness compounded by the financial ruin and relationship breakdowns can push individuals into dark emotional corners. For these reasons, gambling addiction is not just a financial or behavioral issue, it's a psychological crisis that demands compassionate intervention. Perhaps the most visible consequence of gambling addiction is its impact on a person's finances and lifestyle. One common sign is the sudden appearance of unexplained debts or missing money. A person might borrow frequently, max out credit cards, or even take out payday loans. They may become evasive or angry when asked about financial matters. Neglect of work, family, and daily responsibilities is another warning sign. A previously reliable employee may begin missing deadlines, arriving late, or skipping work altogether. Parents may fail to attend school events or spend meaningful time with their children. Daily routines break down as gambling becomes the center of life. In advanced stages, individuals may resort to desperate measures, stealing from friends or family, selling valuable possessions, or engaging in fraud to fund their habit. These behaviors are often fueled not by malice, but by desperation and a deep-seated belief that the next win will solve everything. Understanding gambling addiction requires us to look beyond the surface to see it's not a flaw or vice, but as a serious mental health condition with complex roots. By learning to recognize its signs, from behavioral shifts to emotional struggles to financial distress, we can intervene earlier, offer support, and guide those affected toward the help they deserve. Gambling addiction thrives in silence. The more we talk about it, understand it, and expose it, the less power it has to destroy lives. Gambling addiction is often underestimated. Unlike chemical addictions, it doesn't leave physical traces, no bottles, no needles, no visible withdrawal, but its impact can be just as devastating. What starts as a seemingly harmless pastime can escalate into a crisis that touches every area of a person's life. From emotional anguish to financial collapse, broken relationships to criminal charges, the consequences of gambling addiction are deep, far-reaching, and often devastating. To effectively support those caught in its grip, we must understand the breadth of this damage. The emotional toll of gambling is intense and complex. Those struggling often live in a constant state of stress, hiding their actions, juggling debt, and fearing exposure. The cycle of hope, despair, chasing wins, and enduring losses takes a psychological toll that can lead to anxiety, irritability, and feelings of helplessness. Over time, the stress accumulates, sometimes culminating in panic attacks or emotional breakdowns. Mentally, the addiction dominates the gambler's thoughts. There is persistent, obsessive focus on betting, calculating odds, chasing previous losses, strategizing for the next game. This obsessive thinking erodes decision-making ability and contributes to a deep sense of loss of control. Many gamblers resort to feeling like they're watching themselves from the outside, aware they're spiraling but unable to stop. Physically, the toll becomes evident over time. Sleeplessness is common, either from late-night gambling sessions or from anxiety-induced insomnia. Nutrition suffers, hygiene declines, and overall health begins to deteriorate. Some people neglect medical appointments, skip meals, or stop exercising altogether. The longer the addiction continues, the more it drains every layer of well-being. Gambling addiction and financial ruin go hand in hand. One of the earliest and most devastating impacts is the draining of savings. What starts as a small wager quickly escalates, wiping out emergency funds, retirement accounts, and college savings. When the gambler hits zero, the desperation only grows. To stay in the game, many turn to pawn shops, payday loans, or high-interest credit cards. They borrow money with unrealistic expectations that a win will solve everything. Often, these debts spiral into credit card fraud or check bouncing as the person scrambles to stay afloat. Eventually, the bottom may fall out completely. Bankruptcy, eviction, and even homelessness can result from prolonged gambling. Families may lose their homes, vehicles, or businesses. Utilities are shut off, accounts frozen, and credit card destroyed. Financial ruin doesn't just impact the gambler, it cascades across their entire household. Few things destroy us as quickly as addiction, and gambling is no exception. Gamblers often lie to their partners about losses, debts, and the extent of their behavior. They may hide bank statements, open secret accounts, or ask for money under false pretenses. This creates an atmosphere of deception, breeding resentment and instability within the household. In many cases, the gambler engages in emotional manipulation to get money, guilt-tripping a spouse, making promises they can't keep, or blaming others for their actions. Over time, the emotional abuse erodes intimacy, safety, and mutual respect. These dynamics frequently lead to divorce, separation, or estrangement from loved ones. Parents may lose custody of their children, siblings and friends may cut ties, unable to cope with the chaos. The relational wreckage of gambling addiction is often profound as the financial fallout. Addiction thrives in secrecy, and secrecy breeds isolation. As the gambler becomes consumed by their habit, they begin to withdraw from the people and activities they once loved. Friendships fade, family events are skipped, and once beloved hobbies are abandoned. The social world of the gambler grows smaller and smaller. Shame plays a powerful role in the isolation. Many people struggling with gambling addiction are deeply ashamed of their losses, their lies, and their inability to stop. Rather than risk judgment, they retreat, hiding behind screens, avoiding phone calls, and shutting out those who care. Eventually, the only connections that remain may be with other gamblers or enablers, people who encourage or normalize the addiction. This isolation makes recovery harder because it removes the very support systems that could offer a path out. The effects of gambling addiction often spills into the workplace. Productivity declines. The gambler may miss work, show up late, or struggle to concentrate. Some gamble on the job, checking bets during meetings or playing online games while checked in. Over time, job performance suffers, leading to demotion, disciplinary action, or sudden termination. In more severe cases, gamblers resort to workplace theft or embezzlement, especially when they have access to cash, client funds, or financial records. These behaviors often stem not from malice, but from desperation, a misguided attempt to borrow money to fix gambling-related debts. But the consequences are often criminal. As the addiction progresses, legal trouble may follow. Fraud, identity theft, forgery, and other financial crimes are not uncommon. Arrest, prosecution, and incarceration become real risks. The legal system may become just another battleground where the consequences of gambling addiction must be fought. The impacts of gambling addiction are far more than financial losses or missed bets. This disorder penetrates every aspect of life: the mind, the body, family, the community. It leads to emotional suffering, broken homes, social exile, job loss, and criminal charges. But perhaps the greatest tragedy is that many people endure this pain silently, believing they are alone or beyond redemption. By understanding the full scope of gambling addiction's impact, we gain not only awareness but empathy. We see the urgency of early intervention, the need for support systems, and the power of recovery. Because while the damage is real, so too is the possibility of healing, and it begins with awareness. Addiction thrives in silence. Gambling, unlike many other compulsive behaviors, can remain hidden for months or even years, concealed by secrecy, rationalizations, and denial. For both the person suffering and the people around them, seeing the problem clearly is the hardest yet most necessary part of the journey. Recognition is the turning point. It's where the descent can begin to reverse. Denial is a powerful shield and a dangerous one. For many gamblers, minimizing or outright denying the problem is a coping mechanism to protect themselves from shame, fear, and consequences. They may say things like, "I'm just having a bad streak," or "I can quit anytime I want." Others shift blame, pointing to financial pressures or outside stressors, avoiding personal accountability. This denial often persists even in the face of significant consequences: mounting debt, broken relationships, or lost jobs. Why? Because admitting the truth means acknowledging the damage, and that can feel unbearable. As long as there is hope for one more win, the illusion of control persists. Loved ones play a critical role in gently challenging that illusion. Rather than accusing or attacking, effective confrontation begins with concern, not condemnation. Phrases like, "I've noticed you've been really stressed about money lately," or "I'm worried about how much time you've been spending gambling," can open the door to honest conversation. Often, what finally breaks through denial is hitting rock bottom, a personal crisis so severe that the illusion can no longer be maintained. For some, it's a financial collapse. For others, a ruined relationship or even a legal arrest. But not everyone needs to hit rock bottom to seek help. Awareness can begin with smaller wake-up calls or missed mortgage payment, a partner's tears, or a quiet moment of self-reflection. Once denial begins to break, the next step is self-awareness. This means getting honest about the depth of the problem. A powerful tool in this stage is the use of screening questionnaires, such as the South Oaks Gambling Screen or the DSM-5 Criteria Checklist. This helps individuals assess whether their behavior fits the pattern of gambling disorder. Journaling is another helpful method. Writing down gambling behaviors, financial losses, and emotional states before and after gambling can bring clarity to patterns that were previously ignored. Patterns of triggers like boredom, loneliness, stress, or celebration often emerge. These emotional drivers are central to understanding how the addiction functions. As the person builds awareness, they may begin to ask other questions. What am I chasing? What am I avoiding? What's the cost of continuing? These reflections can be painful, but they mark the beginning of transformation. Family and friends are often the first to notice a problem, even before the gambler does. They see the emotional changes, irritability, secrecy, mood swings. They witness the behavioral shifts, missed obligations, financial strain, social withdrawal. Their intuition, if listened to, becomes a lifeline. When loved ones suspect a gambling problem, they face a delicate challenge: how to intervene without pushing the person further into secrecy or shame. A calm, non-judgmental approach focused on concern, not accusation, is key. Framing the conversation around love and support can make it easier for the gambler to hear. One of the most practical ways families can support change is by setting financial boundaries. This might involve separating bank accounts, limiting to credit, or monitoring spending. While it may feel uncomfortable, these steps protect both parties and often expose the seriousness of the addiction. When done respectfully, early intervention from family can help the gambler confront reality before things spiral out of control. Self-awareness is important, but professional help offers clarity, structure, and guidance. Speaking with a psychologist, addiction counselor, or licensed therapist can provide a formal diagnosis and open the door to effective treatment. Clinicians use a combination of interviews, assessments, and behavior evaluations to distinguish between high-risk behavior and full-fledged gambling disorder. Not everyone who gambles excessively meets the clinical criteria for addiction, but many are further along than they realize. According to the DSM-5, gambling disorder is diagnosed when an individual meets at least 4 of the following criteria within a 12-month period: preoccupation with gambling, increasing risk-taking, unsuccessful attempts to stop, chasing losses, lying to conceal behavior, jeopardizing relationships or opportunities, and relying on others for financial bailout. The more criteria met, the more severe the diagnosis. A professional diagnosis also removes some of the shame. It shifts the focus from moral failure to mental health challenge, something that can be treated, managed, and overcome. Recovery often begins with a decision, often a difficult one. I need help. For some, that admission comes with a sense of relief. For others, it's terrifying. But in every case, it's the doorway to freedom. The next step may be as simple as talking to a trusted friend or family member, calling a gambling helpline, or joining a support group like Gamblers Anonymous. In some cases, it means scheduling a therapy session, enrolling in an outpatient program, or seeking a sponsor. What matters is movement, even if it's small. Support systems matter enormously in this stage. No one should walk this road alone. The backing of family, friends, therapists, or peers in recovery can make the difference between relapse and lasting change. Taking the first step doesn't guarantee the road will be easy, but it does guarantee something more important: that the road ahead leads from destruction and toward healing, peace, and a second chance. Recognizing a gambling problem is not a moment of weakness, it's a moment of power. For the gambler, it marks the first step back towards self-control and dignity. For loved ones, it opens a path to healing and reconciliation. Denial may be strong, but truth is stronger. With awareness, compassion, and support, gambling addiction can be named, understood, and overcome. Because once we see the problem clearly, we can begin to change it, one step, one choice, one day at a time. If you or someone you love is struggling with gambling addiction, you're not alone, and you don't have to navigate this journey in the dark. I've created a powerful set of tools to help you or your loved one take the first real steps toward recovery. Start with our free 7-day gambling recovery journal, designed to help you understand your triggers, recognize harmful patterns, and rebuild your mindset one day at a time. When you're ready to go deeper, the 30-day recovery journal offers daily guidance, reflection prompts, and CBT-inspired exercises to help you break the cycle for good. And for those seeking a comprehensive guide, our book, The Ultimate Guide to Overcoming Addiction walks you through proven strategies, practical tools, and real-world advice, covering everything from emotional healing to relapse prevention. These resources are available in Amazon Kindle, ebook, and paperback formats. Follow the links in the description. Healing is possible. Let's walk this road together.